and welcome to episode 2 of Making Tetris with SDL. So we're going to get stuck in straight away here, and today we're going to be creating a window and kind of talking about a basic game loop. And so first we're going to look at SDL Wiki, and so basically SDL has a kind of wiki associated with it where you can look at different functions and how to use them. So kind of the API reference by name or by category. So we're going to be looking at one called create window. And this creates a window for us to actually see our game in. So basically it has the name of the function, the parameters, and the kind of handle to the window it gives back to you. Also it tells you what the function parameters mean and kind of code examples of how to use it. So we're going to be using this today to create a window. So I'm going to copy that, go back over and paste that in. And semicolon to finish it off there. And so the parameters it takes is a title. So I'm going to write Tetris. It takes an X and Y coordinate on the screen, so where it kind of appears when we open it up. So we're kind of going to use a default one. We don't really care where our window appears. So we're going to say, hey, put it in the center. Kind of SDLU kind of handle this for us. Then we're going to want the width and the height of the window. So we're going to pull this out into variables, so because we might use them later. So we're going to say int width equals 400 pixels and int height equals 800 pixels. So it's going to be an elongated window. So next we're going to say put these in here, width, there's a height, and the final parameter is that it needs some flags. And what are these? So basically they're kind of things we can ask of the window, kind of special attributes about it. So do we want it to be full screen? Do we want it to be hidden? Do we want it to be resizable? And for us, we're going to just say, hey, we don't want anything special about this window. We're just going to pass 0. So no flags associated with it. So that should create a window for us, and we're going to build it and then see if it actually runs. So I'm going to start off by just opening up the command prompt again. And if we call our build.bat script, oh, actually we need to change directory into documents, change into Tetris, and then we're going to run our build script. And basically it says, hey, not recognized, you can't call the compiler. So we need to call our startup script. That initializes our compiler, and then we can call our build.bat script. And so it's saying here, I forgot to actually put this in a variable. So we need to actually say, hey, what do we want our variable to be called? We want it to be called a window, and create window passes that back of type SDL window pointer. So save that, build it. Then we're going to run it. So we're going to say, hey, run our main.exe. And you saw briefly we got a window pop up, but then close again. So what's happening here? Well, it enters into the main function. We initialize these variables, then we create the window, but then it goes straight on after this and kind of finishes our program. It says, okay, I'm finished this function now, return out, and that's our program finished. So how do we actually keep it around? So we can first do something called SDL delay, and we're going to say 5,000 milliseconds. So SDL delay basically pauses our program. So look that up. So use this function to wait a specified number of milliseconds before returning. So it kind of pauses our program for 5 seconds. So let's build this. Then we're going to run our main.exe again. 4, 3, 2, 1, close. So it waited 5 seconds and then kind of, once that finished, got to the end of our program and exited out. So if we want our program to kind of stay up forever until, say, someone presses the cross button or someone goes into the menu and says quit, how do we actually do this? Basically, all games and programs have a thing called kind of a game loop or in kind of infinite loop. It keeps running until kind of one of these things, you press the cross button or you say, hey, quit. So basically it's a while loop that kind of says, hey, this is running forever, kind of like this. And then in this loop, we'll do things like handle input. Then we'll go update the program or update the game, and then we will render program. So you kind of actually display it onto a buffer or a screen, and then we'll say present. So basically this is our final thing. It says, hey, present our final buffer to the screen, and this kind of links up with whatever your monitor refresh rate is. So you kind of updates at a certain amount of time. And normally you have to, either the graphics card will do a wait or you have to do a wait. Where basically if you updated without waiting, and it will just keep running through this, and so your program would be updating at like 500 frames per second. And so that's bad if you don't want to get frame tears, and kind of you don't want your processor to be kind of churning out these frames. So that's kind of the main game loop, how it works. So we're going to have to write these ourselves, and that's what our making Tetris is all about. So I'm going to delete that, and so I'm going to try compile this and see if we get any errors. And so it's undeclared identifier true. So basically C doesn't actually have a Boolean type in it. It just has ints and floats and like chars and other things, but it doesn't have a Boolean type. We can actually include a header file which has this specified for us. So it's called stdbool.h, and we'll compile and see if we get an error. So it knows what true is now, so we can actually now run. And what we should get is kind of a program stalls, and would just stay open forever. So basically if we press the cross button, it says kind of not responding. That's because it's stuck in an infinite loop and kind of isn't handling any messages coming from the OS, or isn't actually kind of doing anything. So we can kind of Alt F4 this. So not responding, close the program. And we could also go to the task manager and close that for us. So how do we actually want to handle this? So what we normally do is say, hey, there's this Boolean that we're going to specify above here called running. So bool running equals true. So we're going to say in this infinite loop while we're running. And in here we might say, hey, if you want to quit, we'll say running equals false. And so basically it would change the Boolean to false, then it would come back here, hey, this is false now, and we would exit out. But how do we actually want to quit the game? Well, first one, we actually want to be able to handle this cross button. When we press the cross, what do we want to do? We want to say running equals false. So to do this, we actually need to handle some SDL events. So SDL events are basically like a keyboard press, a mouse movement, kind of anything that the OS is handling for us. So it kind of sends messages or stacks up messages into this message loop, and then we have to, in our message loop, kind of unpack all these sorts. Kind of like if someone gave you a bunch of letters on your desk, then you have to go through and kind of deal with these each frame. So basically you go, there's this SDL event, so it's called pump events, and SDL. So basically there's this function called pump events. Oh, actually it's poll event. I think pump events is part of this poll event function. So basically, this is their code example. They're going while 1 or while true, so that's their infinite loop or game loop. Have this event structure that hasn't been filled out yet, then pass it to this poll event, sending the kind of address of this event to be filled out. And while there's still events on this kind of stack of messages, kind of handle them. So you go through and deal with the ones you actually want to handle. So we're going to copy that in, or we'll type that in. We'll say SDL event, and there's our event structure. Then while there are still events on the stack for this frame, get the next event off it. So we're going to say poll event, pass our event structure to be filled out. So this returns true if there is one on, on the stack, and then it fills out what it is in this event structure. So say if it's true, hey, yes, there's an event or a message to be handled, and then we can switch or kind of if on it, on the type of it. So we can say the event has some type, and they're equals to some kind of enumeration. So basically, this is the quit kind of message, and this is when we press our cross button. And we can look at this in our SDL event structure. So basically, there's a type. Event has a variable, an attribute called type, and it can be one of these. So basically, was there a joystick access event, a keyboard event, a controller button event, and here we go, quit event. So that's the one we're doing, and it says quit request event data. So the user has requested to quit the program or press the X button. So we can go if the event type equals SDL quit. So this is kind of the thing we're kind of putting in there. So it's actually like that. We can say, hey, we want to say running equals false now. So this program will keep looping through this while loop while it's running until the user sends this quit event by pressing the close button, which then gets put on the event stack. We then, at the start of our frame or game loop, we pull it off the event stack. Then we kind of deal with it ourselves. So we say event, if that one of that message is the quit event, running equals false. So we're going to then build our program. And it says legal use of this type in expression. And I think it's actually quit event. Yeah, it is. We actually have to go in and actually use the actual type of it. So it's actually this. So you can see they've got, that's another way of doing an infinite loop. Got their poll event. If it's quit, kind of do something. So let's run our program. And then let's actually, run it now. So we're going to say main.exe. So now it's stuck in the infinite loop. It's running over this every single kind of very quickly. Then we're going to send it a message. We're going to say, hey, we're sending the close event. And it quit. So basically it went into this function. It went into here, this if statement, running equals false. So then when it got out of here, running equals false now, and get out of the program. So that's the end of this episode, and next episode we're going to create a renderer and kind of draw a rectangle to the screen. So see you then.